Hello and welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to The Boring Company. First video of 2020. I am back with another banger. We are going to talk about the Las Vegas Loop, the most important project in The Boring Company portfolio. In fact, the only project in The Boring Company portfolio. This is a make or break project for The Boring Company. It's got to be done. It's got to be done correctly. That's the most important thing. But obviously, we need it done on time. The big question is, can Elon Musk do it? And it's a big if. I'm not going to lie to you. It's looking really tight. And I'm going to explain to you today why I think that construction schedule is too tight, and they should have gone about this in a totally different way, possibly with 2 TBMs. The obvious solution would be to use two TBMs. Unfortunately, they only have one. They're going to have to do a 180, flip it round, and come back the other way. So, progress as of the 4th of January 2020. Hello, everyone joining us on the live stream. So, construction schedule. This is the official construction schedule. I believe, when did I get this? Around end of June, early July, I believe. So, where are we on this schedule? We are coming up to this date. So, we are in January. As you can see, first tunnel completed is going to be somewhere between the middle and end of February, or month 9, according to this. Wow. We are potentially going to miss that deadline. However, I do not have access to any kind of video or photographs from in the tunnel. The Boring Company are being very, very tight-lipped about what exactly is going on. Not even a single rumour as to if they're going to finish on time or if they're going to finish late. They have, however, given us some very interesting snippets of information which we could obviously put together to establish whether they're going to hit that target. And I think, although the TBM did start quite slowly in November, I think the month of December and the start of January have been absolutely blockbuster months for the Boring Company. Rapid progress. You can see by the amount of spoil that they are taking out of the excavation, they must be making good progress. And the big giveaway, the big sign, how many concrete segments have they been installing per day? They've had all these racks of concrete segments lined up. That crawler crane has been moving sections in at quite a rapid pace. So, I think they've been doing somewhere in the region of 16 to 19 meters per day of progress. Potentially slightly more than that, but let's have a look where that leaves us. So, first of all, let's look at our construction drawings. So, we'll look at an actual picture of where Station 3 is going to be. No station so far has been completed. I believe Station 1 has been moved. Again, this is speculation. Even I don't know, and I read up about this pretty much every day. Why have they put the launch pit on the other side of the road rather than the red parking lot? I do not know. Again, this station as well, right in the middle of this car park, has not been started. This is the station right opposite the monorail, and clearly no excavation there. No preparatory works. They've not even installed hoarding to prevent access onto this area. So you're wondering, or I'm wondering, hopefully you guys as well, what in the devil is going on here? Are they going to run through this area and then excavate at a later date? Possibly. I mean, it could be done like that. That might be the more, how do I put it, cost-effective, time-efficient means of doing it. But we don't know. This is Station 1. the trial pit or the launch pit for the TBM is located around 150, 200 meters northeast of this plot here. So why is it there? Why is it not on this spot here? To be frank with you, I don't know. All I know is that the contract documents have been modified. The actual budget for the project has risen by close to $2.5 million. So something has changed, but we don't have access to that information. I'm trying my best to find it out. If you have any information, drop me an email, get on the Discord and tell me. But as far as what I can see, station number 1 at the bottom right here has potentially been moved. Potentially. Then again, it might not have been moved. Maybe they're going to have another tunnel linking up to where the launch pit is cutting across the central hall. I frankly, guys, I don't know. They'd have to use pipe jacking for that. That's going to add additional cost. You're going to need a launch pit and a reception shaft. So again, that's potentially another $4 million, $5 million, maybe a lot more than that, really. Depends on the ground conditions. But just to give you a visualization of where things are, that is where the launch pit is. That is where I believe the tunnel is cutting across. Now, having a station there makes sense if you want to run pods through this system at more than, and I'll be very clear here, this is an estimate, at more than 80 miles per hour. The reason being is you need a nice straight run for the pods to accelerate. Obviously, as well, it reduces wear and tear on the tyres. The disadvantage of having a station moved there, station 1, is that obviously you then have to have passengers crossing the road at 2 points to then get into the South Hall. So, I mean, does that really work for the Las Vegas Convention Center? Probably not. But maybe there's a way around that. Maybe you could have a tunnel with a travelator linking up to the South Hall. That might be a more cost-effective means of doing it. I'm not sure, guys. These are my rough calculations. Like I said, I don't have pictures. I don't have video. All I can do is kind of gauge from the live video feed how much spoil is being moved out of the excavation, how many concrete segments are being installed or craned into the launch pit via the crawler crane. Quite a lot of stacks. These are my estimates. They could be positive or negative up to 15%. So I think they're pretty accurate. But until we actually see the TBM breakthrough on the other side, it's going to be very, very difficult to gauge how much progress they are making per day. So the actual TBM began construction on the 15th of November. It was late on the 15th of November, so really you've only got half a day there. I'm estimating it's around 17.25 meters, so it's somewhere in between 16 and 18.5, 19 meters. So I'm being pretty pessimistic with that estimate, but I think it's reasonably accurate. If they have achieved that average over the last 40 days, so they've been boring for 40 days, that would equate to 690 meters of progress, which is not too bad. It's not too bad. But I think they can do a lot better than that. That's around 51.9% of Tunnel 1. Remember, there are 2 tunnels. This is a dual tunnel system. Overall, from the entire tunneling, that would equate to 25.96, or so let's just round it up, 26% of the total amount of tunnels to be bored. If we had 2 TBMs, we could potentially finish all the tunneling well below well before April, possibly 2 or 3 weeks before the start of April. However, that TBM is the only one the Boring Company currently have operational. Therefore, when they get to the end, they're going to have to lift it out, so they're going to have another crawler crane. They're actually going to have to dismantle it as well, partially, turn it around, do the 180, drop it back in, Then they're going to have to reassemble it or partially reassemble it. I presume they'll be able to break it down into 4 or 5 large pieces, maybe 6 pieces. Then they're going to have to start a new tunnel. And they're going to have to go all the way back down. So they're going to lose, I can't remember how much I put on for this, somewhere in the region of 20 to maybe 30, 35 days turning around that TBM. Maybe slightly less than that. I don't know how many men they're going to have working on that job. But I think being fairly pessimistic, we're talking 20 to 35 days to turn that TBM around. We'll have to see. Now, this picture was provided by a very kind person who actually went to the Boring Company site. This is where, which station is it? Station 3. This is where Station 3 is going to go, just on the far left of your screen. As you can see, it's just a building site. Nothing has been started. As far as I'm aware, there's no evidence of any excavations or trial pits being done. This is the new conference hall. Again, still under construction, still machines everywhere. Where is the reception shaft going to go? Where is the station going to go? We've not even started. So hopefully, we're going to start to see some progress here in the next week to 2 weeks. And then when the TBM comes through, it's all ready to go. Because the last thing we want is delays on the surface, resulting in the TBM having to be turned off for a few days. These are pictures from on site. These are pictures that I've collected over the last month and a half. So as you can see, they're pouring the slab here. This is where they collect all the spoil. As you can see, it's set off there. It's very difficult to gauge what is going on from these pictures because essentially nothing changes on the surface other than the amount of spoil they have in this spoil heap here and the amount of concrete segments that they have stacked up here, top left. You guys can see it there, just above the crawler crane. So they work their way through these concrete segments very rapidly, which is good to see. Whether the thing that's kind of I can't really gauge is, are they stacking these up down below? Are they the actual segment conveyor belt? Is it just stacked up with lots of concrete segments? 20 meters long. So is the fact that they're bringing lots down into the shaft, is that kind of misleading us as to how much progress is actually being made? As you can see, a nice big skip full of spoil being dropped in there. It collects here fairly regularly. It dries out in the sun, and then they have a semi truck turn up and they then remove it. I presume they take it to the spoil heap or the tip, that's how you like to call it. I don't believe any of this is being used to make boring bricks, which is a little bit disappointing because I thought they had facilities on site for that. Maybe I'm wrong, but you'd think that we'd start to see boring bricks popping up and maybe even Elon Musk talking about them, but who knows. And that is it, guys. Let's go to the comments and see who is in today. I tell you what, we'll just keep it on like that. Oh no, we can't do that. So here we are. So, who have we got in today? Thank you everyone, by the way, for joining in. Hopefully you've got a few questions for me. Hello, Christopher. Hello, Edmar. Hello, sir. Welcome from Germany. Beautiful country. Gigafactory 3. In fact, I'm going to actually try and make a trip out to Germany in the next probably in the summertime, and go and see where they're building this Gigafactory. Hello from California. Hello, Jeffrey. Oregon. Lovely. Hi from New Zealand. New Zealand, possibly, and controversial, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. If you've ever been to New Zealand, Just beautiful. Really is phenomenal. Tunnels will be the future. I hope so. If we can get the cost of tunnels below, I believe, around $8 million per mile, and consistently get it below that, maybe even below $7 million dollars per mile, then that really opens up the potential of building very, very large tunnel networks, because that investment of $7 million to build that 1 mile of tunnel, that you can easily turn that 7 million into 300 million over, you know, a 20 year period. Yes, I agree, Tony. We need lots of tunnels in the Bay and Los Angeles. Absolutely, Jeffrey. In fact, I was talking on my Twitter channel today about the BART system, Bay Area Rapid Transit, and they were planning quite a large extension of around, I believe, around 5 and a bit miles, maybe 6 miles. That's just wrapped up in red tape, and everyone wants BART to extend into the Bay further, but they can't build it because of all the red tape. And it's also a very large TBM, so it's going to take a very, very long time for it to bore those 5.5 miles. LA to Vegas for sure. Yeah, that'd be quite a long distance. Hopefully they will focus on Vegas to begin with, and try and connect up the Strip, all the casinos, maybe connect up the new stadium there. It's one hell of a stadium they're building in Las Vegas. I believe it's $2.8 billion. Something in that region, maybe slightly more than that. Absolutely insane amounts of money. Seattle, absolutely, definitely need to get some tunnels going in Seattle. We need some here as well in Manchester, in England. We used to have trains from Seattle to the ski areas up here. Really? So I presume, Tony, they've closed down those trains, or did they not run them as frequently? Potentially, Mark, they could be on Mars. I think that building underground on Mars is the way to go. Yes, Jeffrey, I agree. A lot of people, when I write things on Twitter, they come up back at me and they say, "Oh, well done to Elon Musk. He's invented the subway." And I'm like, well, no, guys. I love subways. I love trams. I love buses. I love any form of transport that is clean and electrically powered and is cost effective to use. But the problem is, they're just not building enough of it. We need to increase capacity in all areas. We need to invest in every form of mass transit. Ice has to be easier to bore through on Mars. And there might be a bit of ice under the surface, but I don't imagine there will be that much ice because a lot of it has been burned away into the atmosphere. Yes. Yeah. Apparently Switzerland is very, very high percentage of electric trains, which obviously means that they're pretty much carbon neutral. It's fantastic. I mean, I wish that was the case in the UK. At the moment in the UK, 45% of the network is electrified, which is absolutely terrible. We really need to get that up to around 70%, because once you get it beyond about 60%, it doesn't really make it cost effective to use diesel trains. So then there's kind of like a jump period where you go from 60% all the way up to 95% in a very short period of time. But it requires a lot of investment, needs to be done. The Swiss, excellent. Make good watches. And great chocolate as well. Are they making bricks or supportive large circumference bricks from the spoil? As far as I'm aware, they're not making bricks, but at one point it looked like they were building a facility to make the bricks. So, I mean, the Boring Company Twitter page is very inactive. It's a shame that they're not talking more about this, because there's so much spoil coming out of that launch pit. They could definitely build hundreds of thousands of bricks over the next 3 months, easily. Hi, Will. Thanks for keeping up the content. You're very welcome, Ashley. Really appreciate the continued support for this channel. Looks like it will be just less than a 1 mile section. Yeah, for the Las Vegas project, it's 0.827 miles, which is, in fact, I can't even convert it for meters. It's like 1,300 and something meters. Well, are the concrete segments made from the spoil? No, I'm afraid not, Jeffrey. It is very difficult to consistently make concrete segments using the spoil that are, consistently structurally rigid, because obviously they're a lateral member and a compressive member as well. It needs to be near on perfect every time, and it's very, very difficult using spoil to do that. So you're better off going to good old concrete and rebar, hopefully galvanized rebar. Good job, love your courage. Thank you, Cosmic Rider, appreciate that. Yes, so I'm pretty confident that they probably will make some boring bricks using this spoil. However, I don't think they're going to be making 400,000 bricks. I think it's going to be closer to around 40,000. Done right, a tunnel is forever. Yeah. There's tunnels. In fact, I might even do an episode where I go and look at a tunnel here in the UK. A special bonus episode at some point. I'm thinking about doing it. But there's a tunnel in Preston in Lancashire. So it's only about 20 miles from where I live. It was built in 1826, I believe. And it's still absolutely functional now. It's unused, but it's still functional. People, walk through it. There's no reason why a tunnel couldn't last. A modern tunnel couldn't last 200, 300 years easily. Yes. Investing in tunnels, essentially you are creating a toll road, Tom, and that toll road you can charge people, 34 cents per mile if they're using a car, or maybe just charge them a flat rate for using a pod of around $10 to $11. So you could have 200 years of consistent income just from that. So it'll easily pay for itself 10 times over. Oh, thanks, man. That's really, really made my day. I think we'll finish with just one more question, and then we're going to call it a day, guys. So, one more question. Edmar from Germany. Covering and I watched shadows like. So I looked on the right hand corner of the live view, and there has been some changes, some red plastic covering, and I watched shadows like a crane. Maybe look it up, and they started station 1. Really? Oh, really? Yes, it is live, Daniel. Welcome to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. You can ask any question you want, and I will answer it. One more question, and I'm going to call it a day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Really, really appreciate that. I also like to do a big shout out to all my Patreons. Absolutely fantastic for you to support this channel, and like I always said, that is going to be reinvested in this channel and hopefully in a few other things that I want to do. Like this trip I'm hopefully going to make to Preston to look at a tunnel, and then I might do either a live stream or just do a video and then post it on later. Here to help, Jeffrey. Thank you for tuning in. Right, projections. What do I think is going to happen over the next 3 months? I think the Boring Company TBM is going to break through on the other side around the 6th of March. Somewhere in that region. In around the 6th of March, maybe slightly earlier. It's then going to take them nearly a month to turn it around. So around the 27th of March, they will have turned the entire machine around and they will start going back the other way. I then think it'll be April, May, June. Around the end of June, early July, when they come back round and they've made it back to the starting line, essentially, from where they started. So I think they've got plenty of time to finish this project. if they start building the stations in the next month to 6 weeks, they've got to get started. If that means bringing in another contractor to do that, they've got to do that. They've got to get started early. They've got to get on top of things, because once they've done the tunnels, once they've done the stations, they're going to be fairly basically laid out. It's just going to be exposed concrete and a few, staircases and maybe a couple of elevators from the cross sections I've seen. But once they've done that, that's when they're going to start testing the system. So they're going to need to start bringing the pods in. Maybe they're going to start calibrating those pods, and then going to start running the platoons, seeing how fast they can run the system, because it's going to be very, very difficult when they've got hundreds of pods to consistently run them at over 80 miles per hour. I think it's going to be a lot less than that. I think that the pods are going to get up to speed, maybe up to around 60 miles per hour, because it's such a short length, 0.827 miles. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get up to 60 miles per hour, because then they're going to have to start braking almost instantaneously. So they'll still be able to move thousands of people. I have no doubt that they'll be able to move, 4,000, is it 4,300 people? 4,300 people per hour. But instead of using, like 150 pods, they might have to use, 250 pods. Maybe slightly less than that, 220 pods. They'll have to obviously calibrate to see how many they can use at one time. Last question, Jeffrey Hodes. I was on the BART about 2 months ago, and I can tell you I experienced a lot of crime and problems, from people speeding on the BART to littering to smoking marijuana to bringing their dogs on. Yeah, I've heard very bad things about BART. Apparently, public urination on BART is endemic. As soon as it starts to go dark, it gets after about 9 p.m, people start urinating on there. People who are homeless go on there, and they kind of just sit on the trains. They're dirty, they're not clean very often. Apparently, the keeping to the timetable is very difficult sometimes. So, you end up getting kind of crammed on with about 900 other people onto one train, and it's just an absolute joke. They need to invest in that service, otherwise it's just going to continue to plummet in its quality and its reputation. But they need to invest in BARTs, they need to invest in buses, they need to invest in all forms of transport, and obviously the Boeing company can hopefully improve congestion in San Francisco at some point. We've not got any projects lined up for San Francisco, but hopefully in the next year or so we might have something going to the Salesforce Tower. Okay guys, I'm going to close the live stream now. Thank you all for joining me. Really appreciate you joining in. Hopefully we'll have a few more videos coming out in the next week or so. And remember guys, don't be boring. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Please come and join our Discord server. Join us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in.